welcome back to Social Studies. Our target is still the same as it's been all week. I can locate and identify key features of the oceans. Now, yesterday we focused on the Pacific Ocean, and we learned all about how it's the biggest ocean, it's the deepest ocean, it had that really cool ring of fire where all those earthquakes and volcanoes are. Today, we're going to learn about the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean. Let's go ahead and get started with the Atlantic Ocean. I'm on Epic, so you too can read this book later if you want to learn more. Let's go ahead and talk about where in the world is the Atlantic Ocean. Well, when we look at a map, where is the Atlantic Ocean? Can you find North and South America? Yeah, it's right here. This map is like how we would normally see the map. They are to the west of North and South America. Now find Europe, it's to the east, and Africa is below Europe, and the Atlantic Ocean is right in the middle. The Atlantic Ocean covers a fifth of Earth. So I can see that this area right here in between my continents is the Atlantic Ocean, okay? And the Atlantic Ocean is Earth's second largest ocean. We know the Pacific is the biggest, then the Atlantic. Well, let's go with the flow. The Gulf Stream is a strong current in the Atlantic Ocean. It is fast and warm. It always takes the same path, and many animals ride in the Gulf Stream. And they can do that because it moves on its own, so it kind of gives the animals a break and they don't have to work as hard. This says the Gulf Stream starts in the Gulf of Mexico. Then it moves up the east coast of North America and turns towards Europe. Okay? This says, fishermen know blue marlin follow the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. That would be important to know if you were a fisherman and your job was to catch fish. That Gulf Stream is probably where a lot of the fish are going to be. An important thing to note, it talks about how the Gulf Stream is warm. The Atlantic Ocean tends to be a little bit warmer than like the Pacific Ocean. I know living in Texas, the Atlantic Ocean is the ocean you have most likely been to. It's a little bit warmer than the Pacific Ocean. Let Miss Lime tell you, that Pacific Ocean is very cold. A sea in an ocean. The Sargasso Sea is in the Atlantic Ocean. Currents go in a circle around it. They set the sea apart from the rest of the Atlantic Ocean. Seaweed grows here. Baby turtles and eels often grow up here. It is a shelter for many animals. The Sargasso Sea is the world's only sea inside of an ocean. Now, a sea is a little bit different from an ocean. We have places like the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, and the Sargasso Sea. And it's normally not in the middle of an ocean. It's like to the side of one. It's still salt water, but it is technically a different body of water. So in the Atlantic Ocean, the Sargasso Sea is just kind of like completely surrounded by it. The Sargasso Sea is named for the Sargassum, the seaweed that floats there. So here's all this seaweed. Oh, and I can even see some of those baby turtles it was talking about. Stormy weather. Hurricanes or typhoons, remember I learned that they can also be called typhoons, are big storms. They form over warm water near the equator. Remember, that's that middle line that goes around the middle of our Earth. Hurricanes have strong winds. Sometimes they reach land. They bring rain, floods, and dangerous winds. The doldrums is an area in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans with very little wind. The doldrums is near the equator. Now, here is what a hurricane would look like from outer space. I can see it's moving in a circle. Those are those really strong winds. Most North Atlantic hurricanes are from June to November, okay? And I can see this is part of Florida on the East Coast, part of North America. Now, it did tell me that most of these, or that sometimes they reach land, which tells me there are a lot of hurricanes that are just over the ocean. They don't always come to land, but when they do, it is important to be prepared. Looking cool. Look out! Icebergs are huge chunks of ice. They float in the ocean. The North Atlantic has many icebergs. They are a danger to ships. Icebergs that show less than 16 feet above the water are called Bergy bits. Even smaller icebergs are called growlers. So here is my iceberg. Now, this is what I can see, but that means there's a whole lot more ice under the water that we can't even see. And icebergs travel with ocean currents. That means the oceans can move the icebergs around. Now, this has to be up in the north part of the Atlantic because if it was really, really hot, that iceberg would not be able to make it. And when we learn about the Arctic Ocean, we'll see how many icebergs there are up in the Arctic. Islands can be mountaintops. What's that in the water? Is it an island? A mountain? It's both. It's the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. A ridge is a line of mountains. Most of these mountains are underwater, and the tops of the tallest mountains are islands. The Azores are islands near Portugal. They are part of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So just like the Pacific Ocean had that ring of fire, it had all of those volcanoes underwater where we had all of those earthquakes, in the Atlantic we have the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, okay? And it's part of the longest mountain range on Earth. And it's telling us that some of these mountains are so tall that the tops of them are above water, forming an island. The deepest point. The Atlantic Ocean's deepest point is called the Milwaukee Deep. It is near Puerto Rico. The Milwaukee Deep is more than 5 miles deep. It's named after the ship that discovered it. Modern machines can travel into parts of the Milwaukee Deep. And it's easier to travel into the Milwaukee Deep than it was in the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean because it's not as deep. But boys and girls, 5 miles deep underwater is still very, very deep. A healthy ocean. Many animals call the Atlantic Ocean home. Whales and dolphins live here. So do birds, seals, and turtles. Sharks and many other types of fish also live in the Atlantic Ocean. Many Atlantic fish and whales feed on plankton. Plankton are teeny tiny creatures that float in the water. Not like plankton from SpongeBob. These are little animals that they all eat. This is a mako shark, and it lives in nice, warm Atlantic waters. A good home. The Atlantic Ocean can be many things. It is big, it is surprising, it is full of danger. It is a good home. Many animals depend on the Atlantic Ocean. People do too. Let's take good care of it. The Atlantic Ocean was named by ancient Greeks, and it means the Sea of Atlas. The Atlantic Ocean is more than 10 times larger than the United States. That is pretty big. There was a ton of information in that book about the Atlantic Ocean, and I learned a whole lot, like that Mid-Atlantic Ridge where some of those mountains were tall enough to make islands at the surface of the ocean. We have one more ocean that we're going to learn about today, and it is the Indian Ocean. And just like our last book, you can find this one on Epic. Let's go ahead and get started. Well, where in the world is the Indian Ocean? Well, let's look at this map. Can we find Africa? Oh, yeah, right here is Africa. And it's to the oceans, or Africa is to the ocean's west. Okay, well, now let's find Asia, and it's to the north. And Australia is down here to the east and south. The Indian Ocean is right here. It's in between all of them. The Indian Ocean mixes with 3 other oceans. The Pacific Ocean, I can see the Pacific is coming in right here. The Atlantic Ocean is right here, and the Southern Ocean, which is right down here. The Indian Ocean is the 3rd largest, or the 3rd smallest, because remember, we just have 5. So the biggest ocean is the Pacific, then the Atlantic, then the Indian. Well, let's see what we can learn about the Indian Ocean. Great for a dip. The Indian Ocean is mostly warm. It stays warm all year. This water is warm enough for swimming, but not in the far south. There, it's cold all year. The Indian Ocean is the warmest ocean on Earth. It stays above 71 degrees all year. The water gets colder near the Southern Ocean, and when we learn more about the Southern Ocean, that'll make way more sense. The Indian Ocean is named for the country of India. The ocean surrounds India on all 3 sides, and look how beautiful that is. So this is the warmest water because we know oceans can be pretty cold. So the Indian Ocean is the best one to go swimming in for most of the year because it is so nice and warm. Changing wind. Monsoons are winds. They change with seasons. In winter, they bring dry weather. In summer, they bring rain. In some areas of the world, monsoons can bring so much rain that flooding happens. Monsoons always blow from a colder area to a warmer area. In India, most of the country's rain for the whole year falls during the summer monsoon season. Now, these are winds that are coming off of the Indian Ocean, okay? So, when the winds change, it does change the weather around them. But it's because of the Indian Ocean that we have these monsoons. Too much wind! Cyclones can come with the rain. Cyclones are big storms. They bring high winds and floods. They can bring danger too. In North America, cyclones are called hurricanes. Wait a second, so they can be called typhoons, cyclones, or hurricanes? I guess it just depends what ocean you're at and what part of the world you're at to know what most people call it. But essentially, the storm is the same. Cyclones are stronger over the ocean water. They weaken once they reach to land because they're getting a lot of that water and blowing it around when they're over the ocean. And as they move into land, they do lose some of that, strength and ability and stuff like that. Changing water. A current is fast water. It always goes the same way. Oh, we learned about that with the Atlantic Ocean. At least most currents do. The Indian Ocean has an odd current. It turns around. In summer, it goes west. In winter, it goes east. It is the only current that changes like this. So every current in every ocean stays the same, except for this one in the Indian Ocean. The Java Trench or Java Trench is the deepest place in the Indian Ocean. It is a little more than 1.5 miles deep. Now that is definitely way more shallow than the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean and the Milwaukee Deep in the Atlantic Ocean. But boys and girls, that is still so deep in the ocean. 1.5 miles? Oh my goodness. An ocean for oil. There is oil under the Indian Ocean. People drill for it. They load it onto ships. The ships take it from port to port. This makes the ocean very busy. The Suez Canal connects the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Here is a picture of a ship that is carrying oil called a tanker. Now, that oil is important because we know that we can use oil for our stoves, our electricity, gas in our cars, okay? So the Indian Ocean gets very, very busy with a lot of these tankers and different ships of people trying to get oil so the rest of the world can have it. A good home. The Indian Ocean is a good home. Many animals live here. Sea turtles call the Indian Ocean home. So do shrimp, crabs, and fish. Dugongs are big sea animals. They live in the Indian Ocean's warm waters. Dugongs are relatives of the manatee. Some people think dugongs inspired the first story of mermaids. Oh, that's kind of silly. That doesn't look like a mermaid to me. But hey, maybe way long ago, that is what people used to think a mermaid looked like. Whales and dolphins live in the Indian Ocean. So do many kinds of sharks. Hammerheads, dusky, and great white sharks all feed on the smaller fish. Elephants sometimes swim in the Indian Ocean. They can use their trunks like a snorkel. Here is a hammerhead shark, and they love to eat stingrays. So it sounds like there's a whole bunch of different kinds of animals, species of fish that like to live in the Indian Ocean. It's an important place. The Indian Ocean is lively. It is always changing. Many people and animals call it home. It is an important part of Earth. The Indian Ocean is getting almost 8 inches wider each year. This is because the melting ice in Earth's much cooler areas. So the Indian Ocean is getting bigger every year, just a little bit. But over time, that little bit does make a big impact. This is the Indian Ocean, and just like the Atlantic Ocean, it does cover 1/5 of the world. It is still smaller than the Atlantic because it's not as deep and there's not as much water though. Wow, I have learned so much information about both of these oceans today. I just don't even know where to start. All right, on Seesaw, you're going to have a job just like you did yesterday. On the first page, your job is to find and color just the Atlantic Ocean. Then tell me one thing you learned about it. On the second page, color just the Indian Ocean and tell me one thing you learned about the Indian Ocean. I know there are so many things we've been learning about these oceans. It has been great. I hope you're sharing everything that you're learning with the people in your house. Make sure when you're done completing your assignment, you click that green check mark. Good luck!